everyone. My name is Juby.
And I'm Vanessa, and welcome to No Filters, No Fears podcast.
Podcast.
What elephant do we have today? Wait, that's not an elephant. I'm gonna stop making animal sounds.
The elephant is an elephant three. So,
Three, three. Because I don't think it'll be triggering. But that's my personal opinion. We'll be talking about different types of therapy, you know, our opinions on therapy, and we're gonna have a guest therapist and ask them questions, but we're not going to be therapizing anybody. And
no,
what
we're
we
not
know is that we're not what? We're not.
therapists.
So that's
We
why
are
we
not.
decided to bring some real ones on.
Right. We want them to help. We want.
I'll do the voices for you. Definition Tubi.
We gave everything a title. Okay. So, the definition for therapy is a treatment intended to relieve or heal a disorder. Therapeutic treatment as a remedial treatment of mental or bodily disorder.
I mean, I'm really excited that now it's not so taboo to talk about mental health. It was a
Right.
thing people were afraid to disclose any kind of trauma or uniqueness in how they function because of fear, right? You can't say you're anxious because they won't give you a certain job because it's under pressure and they assume you won't be able to do it. You can't say you have any sort of disability because we a society, unfortunately, that that feeds on ableist mentality.
And especially in our like cultures, I know that we can be like, oh, I'm sad or depressed about it because, as you know, that's not a thing. Especially being Hispanic, you can't. Oh, can we go to therapy? They will look at you like that's not a thing we talk about.
Oh yeah, yeah. We're not gonna talk, and people who maybe this is very triggering. I can now see why this is not a simple like level one or two because we go to therapy from everything from like I need that little extra push and motivation. I find myself lacking motivation to deeper things like, you know, sexual abuse or anxiety, depression, and things like that. That sometimes it's not just sitting at home. You want to get that extra help from a professional.
Right, and then
Um,
sometimes you just need someone to listen to you, and
yeah.
sometimes that's what other people need. And then they feel better, and then afterwards it's like, they feel relieved.
I haven't gone to family therapy, but I can totally see and appreciate the value of it. And whether you're having your family or not, like when there's these big transitions in life, that I can see like why, um, through divorce, through big moves from a state to a state, the
A
parents do
death
the
in the family.
yes, and parents do the best they can. But I think like in having that kind of professional resource in helping with that kind of transition, maybe communicating with each other in a way that you wouldn't know how to.
Exactly. Especially in those household dynamics where, like I said, they don't talk. It's not a thing. Like if you're feeling a certain way, you have to keep it to yourself.
Yeah. I mean, look at what we've talked about this in previous episodes, how it's very difficult what happens to men, right?
Mm.
There's that stigma, men don't cry. Men have to be head of the household, and
Yeah.
that automatically means you're devoid of feelings. Negative ghostwriter. That added pressure starts creating, whether it shows up in that moment or later, it shows up in ways. And um I've seen a lot of young people and a lot of older people really benefit from therapy. I want to have a therapist personally. Like I know I could benefit from having um that help. And reading takes you a long way. There's a lot of literature out there, books and articles that are helpful. There's a lot of therapists online now that are providing uh kind of like assistance or like little quotes and little videos to help But those are like catalysts, I feel. They're like
Right.
supporting material to where you gotta go if you really want to heal.
Right, and we also have to mention that having a therapist does not mean that there's something wrong with you. You know that that's not there's no problem with having a therapist, and
Right.
that's another stigma that, oh, you have a therapist, what's
Oh,
wrong
you're
with
in
you?
therapy?
But
Yeah.
right, like, and that's another thing that we have to take in consideration, that that's another stigma, that you're in therapy, you're crazy. Like, that does not equate to that.
No, it means that you care. And also on the receiving end, like if somebody recommends or brings up, and also I guess in the tact with which you bring it up to somebody about going to therapy, don't take it as they're as if you're being called crazy or damaged or broken. Somebody loves you enough to know that you deserve better, that you deserve to be healed and not to be suffering or struggling with whatever it is you're going through. And they know that they may not be able to be that support and give you what you need. And
Yeah,
so they
there's
want for you to get the help that you deserve. Not that they're saying, "Oye, estás loco, go." That's not what's happening.
right, and that there's someone out there that could actually help you, truly, deeply help you more than anybody else can. So
Right.
that's another thing. Like, don't take it personal. It's just like, hey, I'm giving you my 2 cents about, I feel like you could benefit from it. And there is so many therapy, like, out there, so many ways for you to get help in whatever the case is. There's so
Right.
many. You just have
I
to do your research.
I know that you're pretty aligned with this. You'll say what you're going to say, but also to outside of the scope of therapy individually, and we also talk about this just about every episode about finding information about things that may have nothing to do with you. Watch, videos. Psych to Go is my favorite thing on YouTube. We've used their videos a lot when we're talking about mental health related topics. It's engaging, it's animated, and it's concise, and it gives you a good idea, a good place to start looking for information or understanding certain things. Psych to Go. They're great. I freaking love them. But I watch videos that have nothing to do with things that I go through or feel. And it's more to understand those around me. Granted, here I go, back on the bus. Choop choop, beep beep. Um, we're still unfortunately going to respond sometimes in a way that when we look back, we're like, damn, I should have said that different, right? Because you have taken the time to look up certain things and understand people in your life a little bit better and
Right.
what they go through. And so it's still a bit of getting used to, but do that. Read about other people around you, about, let's say you are fortunate enough to not have to deal with ongoing depression. Read up on depression and what that might look like in different people, because you might be surprised at how people around you may actually be going through it, and you're being insensitive and that wasn't even your intention. you know we've all done it where we're unintentionally the bus unintentionally insensitive or harsh, um and it's not helpful to the person that who we're trying to show that we care. Getting
Exactly.
off the bus now.
And she's like, goodbye. No,
I'm
but
off the bus.
it's true though. I mean, if you care for someone and you want to know more, or like how they're feeling, or get an idea of what's going on, yeah, there's a lot of information out there that you could read and get, little by little, to get acquainted with how they're feeling, so you could communicate with them in the way that they are,
Absolutely.
So
And I find
that's
it really funny. Don't you find it funny that so many of us are like, I want to know more about global warming, and these are things that affect us all, obviously, right?
right.
But then, like, I want to know more about, give me something. Okay. I'm not afflicted by AIDS personally, but I know a lot about it and those that are
Right.
affected by it and how I may want to help, right? We take the time to research and learn about those kinds of things, right?
Mm-hmm.
Why not about the people closest to us and what makes them tick? and how not to make them tick into a bomb. You know what I mean? And setting them off unintentionally. That we should put
Right.
more care into each other. Like we care so much about animals. I do care a lot about animals. And as sometimes people are difficult and we don't want to deal with them. But if we learned how to be a little bit kinder to each other, I think we'd feel the same way as when we see a cute little puppy.
Right, exactly. Put that empathy towards that puppy, towards the human. So yeah, but that's the thing. They don't see it that way though. They don't think that they're two living things, but one has uh, a higher importance than the other one.
To be, I believe we got some 411.
Well, I haven't done it for a while. I have not.
Wait, don't
For
I
one
need to
more
give
with
you like
Chubby.
since we don't have 411? I don't know what to do. 411 with you, babe.
I don't remember what it used to be. Oh my
I
god, I have
remember. Chewy,
this
chewy, chewy,
segment.
chewy. I
I
have
have
no pop
this
filter, so all
segment.
you're getting is spit, spit, spit.
No, at least nobody could hear that. Yeah, I haven't done this segment in like since like a couple ooh, episode 8 or 9.
Months,
Either way,
months. Like, yeah,
it's been months.
a hot
So
minute.
the segment with 411 with Chubi is about links that I find that could be helpful, and I found one that I thought was really helpful. So I'm gonna show it to you guys. It's called psychology today.com/us, types of therapy. You click on it and it shows you of 100 links of different therapy, like
Yeah,
therapy.
because there's not one
Oh
way.
no,
It's not one way.
yeah,
Everybody, we all work different. We all heal
definitely.
different.
Yeah, definitely not. So for example, there is like brain stimulation therapy, neurofeedback therapy, narrative therapy, music therapy, multicultural therapy, person centered therapy, motivational interviewing therapy. So you get the point. But there is
Yes,
so
that's a
many
lot.
that I already. Right, it's a lot. But what I like about this website is like you go into it, you put your zip code, and it takes you to places near you, where you're able to
Yeah,
find a therapist closest to you on what you need and help you navigate through whatever you're looking for. So
yeah.
that's why it's up with 411 with Chubi. That is, the link is at the bottom right there.
Yo, fun fact: the whole hashtag, the hashtag reframing, my hashtag, which is on my mug that I do not have with me today. That is from. It's like I ripped it off from cognitive behavioral therapy. It's like the big cornerstone reframing. So jacked
But
it.
it's important.
So
Hey, but it's still relevant and it's still important. And
let's get down to it because later we got quotey quotes with
yeah.
Vanessa. I don't know. We'll find it. We'll figure out what that sounds like.
So here we go. We're gonna add our guest.
So, ladies and
So,
gentlemen, hi, welcome to Fernando Campos, licensed marriage and family therapist from Avant Garde Therapy. Hi.
Hi, how's everything?
That was
how
a
are
really long title. That
Seriously,
was
like,
a really long. Did you just
I'm
say
just her.
LMFT?
LMFT? Oh yeah, that's just the
LMFT.
easiest way to say it. LMFT. Yeah,
Oh, so Fernando, tell us a
yeah.
little bit about you and Avant Garde. About how long have you been
Therapy.
practicing? What brought you to be a therapist?
So before studying psychology, I was working in entertainment a lot. So I did like breakdancing and emceeing parties, all of that fun stuff as a professional break dancer. And then it so I ended up going through some just issues. I had never really experienced anything like depression, anxiety to like a serious level. You know, you get nervous about things, but I'd gone through something pretty intense. And it ultimately led me to going into therapy. And I think the moment I went into therapy, I was like, oh, this is what I want to do with the rest of my life. Like this is the thing. And so it's kind of switched
The
my
thing.
direction into wanting to study psychology, and then just kind of went fully in that way. I mean, that although very harsh and negative experience, it really did change my life, and I started to realize there's a lot more to psychology than, strong, weak, this idea that like if I'm just strong enough, then I won't be depressed or I won't be anxious if I just like outthink it. There's so much more to it than just like willing it through. And I think a lot of people, and I can definitely speak on like, let's say Latin American culture, there's this like belief of like you just will through it, like you're just like, things
Shruti was
happen,
talking about that.
you just got to get through it. And yeah, so once I was in the field, or once I was starting to really do this kind of work, I realized I had a very different lifestyle of information that allowed me to give my clients or the people that I work with like a little touch of music. I play piano, a little touch of voice acting, and a little touch of this, and I realized all of the information and the experiences that I had really did somehow serve my clients. I even had experience in ministry, and so being able to connect with people on a lot of different wavelengths made me want to kind of absorb more information. And when I came up with the concept of avant-garde therapy, it was just, for anybody who doesn't know, avant-garde is just kind of the forward-thinking progressive. It's usually used in art, originally used in the military, I believe. I think it's a French word, right? See? Yes. Geography. And so I was just like, exactly. And I wanted to be that forward, like new thinking. I mean, I think life right now is very much ready for change and ready for new things, and a lot of people are really being open to the concept of therapy, where, and even still there's still that stigma you guys mentioned, of like, oh my gosh, you have a therapist. But I do think people are ready to actually try it out, to actually experience it, whether it be through a text message or one phone conversation. It's a time where people are really open to it. And I wanted them to have this feeling of not only comfort, but like forward moving inspiration. Because I think a lot of people try to comfort, which is great. And I think that's important. But I wanted to be able to give people a place to feel comfortable, but also feel empowered to move forward, not just to stand still in some soft bubble, but it's like, all right, you're feeling better, and now we want change in our lives. So yeah, I try to bring in all sorts of really new approaches and new concepts and thoughts into therapy, which is where avant-garde therapy comes from.
Nice. And so you've been practicing now for how many years?
I've had my business for about I've had my own office for about 2.5 years. I've been working in the field with agencies and at-risk youth and all that stuff for maybe an extra 2, maybe 3, 4 years. And then before then, I did do counseling for maybe another 4. So, I mean, I feel like I've been counseling for a total of like 8 or 10 years. But in regards to like specifically like what we call therapy, I would say that probably the past like 4 to 5 years.
4 to 5 years, yeah. And 2 with your own practice.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And so just because I think along with that stigma of like, oh, I don't want to go to therapy, or so-and-so is in therapy, could you give us a little insight to what are the kinds of people that seek you out for guidance or help or healing?
So what do you mean by the kinds of people?
Like, I know that you do marriage and family therapy, but I know you also don't just work with couples and don't just work with families. You work with individuals.
Yeah, I've worked with individuals of all types of ages, definitely with couples of all types of ages, and a lot of family work. What's really interesting is to see how different the conversation is when I talk to 2 23-year-olds who are like, we're getting in a fight because he took me to Disney and then he looked at somebody's butt, or I don't know, maybe. I feel like that's had to have happened before. Versus like, let's say someone who's maybe in their 40s or 50s and they're like, I've been married for 20 years and this is, and it's an interesting dynamic being able to speak into the lives of these different people and really see improvements. So as far as like who I see, I can't classify who I see. I mean, we have certain people, in our field, we would call them, let's say, they call it the ideal client, which is the person you feel like you're the most connected to or capable to, you know. There's some people who you may feel like you resonate with more, and you know, I'm very alternative. Look at my hair. I'm different. Yeah, I'm different. I think that's
Did
a
you
famous
just
quote.
do a song?
Yeah. Do we have to edit that out? Do we have to get the license for that quote?
No, we
Okay.
mention Netflix all the time. They still haven't sponsored us. Bitches.
Yeah. But yeah, it's so like you may have people who you may have like a more natural inclination towards or relatability, but in the end it's their humanity that allows for the greatest work, you know, because at the end of the day they're all humans, whether they're 10 years old or they're 55 years old, married, single. And then yeah, so I've opened myself up to working with anyone who needs the support.
That's awesome. And oh, Truby had a question. I heard a
Yeah,
breath.
I was because I was like thinking, what is the hardest thing for you to do with like with your job? Like, what do you think is the hardest thing that you come
For the
up?
therapist, like on our side.
Yeah.
Ooh, well,
He leaned back. He was like,
oh my
wait a
goodness.
minute.
Oh my goodness. I will tell you that anyone who has their license, marriage and family therapist, they had to work super hard just to get there, because once you graduate, you have to work in the field, and oftentimes, you know, not very great pay, that kind of stuff. And you're struggling, like you're going, I mean, I used to go house to house. I was broke by the end of it. So I used to Uber in between jobs, like in between, like I would go to one client's house and like do what I had to do. And then I would like Uber while I was driving to another house. And because it's very difficult, and it's a very pouring out kind of job, you know. It's not like you know, put something on a shelf and then you clock out and that's it. You think about these people at home, you think about all of that that they may be going through. And so I would say that might be one of the most difficult things, like that potential like extra baggage that you may take on. But I give props to anyone who with that was still able to make it those 2 years that they have to work in like the most difficult or sorry. I've seen a lot of people who just fell off, or they started a new career. They were just like, this is too much, because it really, really is. So I always give respect for anybody who has the license, because you know, that shows perseverance, not just like, oh, I got my degree and now I can do it. It's a lot more than that. For myself though, and this is like some like real talk right here. Do you guys curse on your show, or do you
Yes, we
not?
do. It's called No
Okay, so
Filters, No Fears. Real
I'm
people,
just
real
making
talk, real
sure.
topic.
All right, so this is some
Go
real
for
shit
it.
right here. Let's get it. This is
Yeah.
while some people often would say, man, how do you talk to people so much and take on all of these burdens and these baggage and things? I personally, even though I think it's a difficult part of the field, I don't struggle with it as much as I probably struggle with the intimacy that is like in a box. You know, it's like having these really deep conversations and being really connected to people, and wanting to, like, you get pulled into wanting to be Superman, to wanting to do more, wanting to help more. And that can learn, you know, that can turn into the desire to want to like help them beyond what they can pay for. You know, you're like, oh my gosh, I can't afford therapy, and you're like, oh, I want to help this person, but I can't do that in that way. And we do like pro bono work, but at the end of the day, you still have these like your bills and everything,
Parameter and
on
bills.
top of like just like standard ethics of being able to like, hey, can I have this deep, intimate conversation and know that in my mind, because I'm human, I want to be your best friend, but I can't say that stuff, you know, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I find that like entering into such deep intimacy and then exiting out, and then being it feels sometimes like inhuman, because you're like, oh my gosh, like I know the inner things of this person, I feel connected to them, but then it's like, bye, you know, like good day, you know. So I find that to be one of the more difficult struggles for me, especially with kids, like kids and teenagers. You know, you have these kids and teenagers who are just like, they look at you and they're like, man, I respect you and I'm learning from you and all that other stuff. Back when I was in agency, most of their like time frames were like 6 months. and it was great. But by the end of the 6 months, it was like your time is done, and I felt like Mary Poppins. I would just like open my umbrella, and I'm just like, bye, like,
Yeah.
and then
Well,
that's
because
it.
part of your job, and therapists tell us this all the time, it's like your part of your job is to work yourself out of a job.
Yeah, exactly. And so it is a pitfall of humanity that's there. It's this desire. And at any point in time when, as a therapist, if you're getting more from the interaction or than they are, then there's something that you have to question about either your approach, how you're doing things, because you really are there for them. You're really there to support them. And that also means in letting them go and take the information they had and not be dependent on you for feeling secure, for feeling empowered. It's about you're empowered, so empowered that you don't need to talk to me anymore. And that's an interesting, difficult dynamic for myself, at least.
Yeah. So you also then this is a new thing. I've also been really excited to see a lot of therapists pop on the interwebs and doing different things. Um, and like I said, I mentioned Psych to Go earlier. I love them. Super helpful. There's also Love with Janelle, and that she's big on Instagram. I really enjoy her. But you do a lot of content as well, of interviews or of videos talking about therapy or relationships, or what was it? Love, is it love or a skill? I've
Oh
seen
yeah.
your videos. I did my
Yeah.
research.
Nice.
But so I invite everybody to follow. It's Avant-Garde's YouTube, correct?
Well, so I have two.
Or
One is more for the office. One is like it's like avant-garde therapy with like underscores in between. Mine is Fernando Campos, or I think it's Fernando Campos LMFT.
yes,
So Fernando, that's where I have the majority of my
of your
stuff.
content.
Although it should appear on both of them, but yeah.
Okay. Well, I all of your information is included in the post that we made of his today, and then we'll also be sharing it in the final edit.
Awesome.
But do you find that that kind of content, having that accessibility to somebody? So obviously, we have a lot of people that are out there um, doing motivational speeches, and for example, Tony
Mhm.
Robbins, etc. But they're not therapists. So do you find that that's been beneficial, not just to your clients, but people that maybe have written or reached out to you and be like, hey, I saw this video and it made me click, and in turn used it? Has
Yeah.
creating content like that been helpful?
Yeah, I think it helps a lot. It is very difficult because there's just, especially with COVID, I mean, there's just so much content out there, and if anything, we should know that social media tends to bring us what we already were looking for, right? You're like, man, I really wanted to get shoes, and then you get an advertisement for shoes, or you're looking for a mattress, you get an advertisement. You're like, are they
Usually it's
listening
not
to
about this
me?
life. We talked about
You
this on
know?
the technology episode. Yeah.
Yeah. So here's the good and the bad side of that. The good is that, you can watch certain things like that content, if whether it's me or anyone else that creates this, and it can be really good information, but it's also sometimes hard to know if you're listening to accurate information or if you're listening to information that just supports what you already sort of believe, right? So, there are videos where they say, this is how a man should treat you, or this is how a woman should treat you, or this is how relationships should be, or this is how, I find that most people don't really know what relationships should look like because we have such a high fail rate when it comes to relationships, just in general, right? So, you may find something online that sort of connects to like what you already believe, but I think a good balance of those types of videos isn't just stuff that I agree with, but stuff that like challenges me. Like if I watch something and it actually makes me think, not just like what I already thought and is like, yeah, like together, but like
Yeah.
it's like, well, let me step back and rethink how I'm approaching this thought or this conversation or this interaction. And the thing with social media is it's so very like heavy. Sometimes people are just producing content because they want more people to absorb it. So I do think that it's an awesome opportunity to be able to reach out or to like at least instill a thought, but it should never replace true therapy. It should never replace the true support. And I do worry sometimes that sometimes people rely on Instagram posts to be their therapist. And although it brings up the concept of therapy, like, as you guys mentioned, there's hashtag therapy. Like I often feel like if as many people went to therapy as people who used hashtag therapy, it the world would totally be different, right? And so I'm like, that's so
Ooh, say
interesting
it
that
again for the people in the back.
yeah, there's this, these trends, and it's like mental health shouldn't be a trend. It should just be a part of your lifestyle. It should be something so much more than a hashtag, so much more than a like or an Instagram post. It needs to be something that we hold as like a priority in our lives. So I think it's great and that it can support in that way, but I think it can also potentially, it can potentially keep people in this, like, I put up 10 mental health posts a day. And I'm like, do you talk to a therapist? Nah.
Yeah.
I'm gonna just get through it
Hashtag it's a
myself.
balance. It's a balance.
So
Go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
So going based on what you said about being alternative, and this goes along with having a post, on social media, being alternative, with your hair. Do you think people take you seriously? Like when they first see you, they're like seeing you on Instagram and your post comes up, they're like, "Y este tipo, like who's this?" Like does
Yeah.
that?
Oh, not at all. This beard is for professional use. If I shave, you're like, hello, little boy. Where's the therapist that's going to be on our show? So it's interesting, that question, because I think when I first started off, it was a question that either supervisors may have had, or there was something like, in family members are like, hey, are you going to like dye your hair? I used to have an eyebrow piercing. I took it out not because I wanted to be more professional, but I was just like, I don't think, time has passed. Sometimes piercings go. But yeah, I kind of
I
miss it
met
though.
you with red hair.
Yes, I did. I have red hair. Yeah, I change the colors all the time. But whether or not they take me seriously, I think at this point, I know what I provide is true. I know what I'm saying is true. So it kind of serves as a tool, because for me, I think that I'm there to challenge thoughts. I'm there. As a therapist, I'm 100% there to help comfort and help people who are hurting to heal, right? But if like I mentioned before, if all I do is comfort, I'm really sending them off with the same belief system that led them to that trauma in the first place, right? So not only do I need to comfort them, but I have to challenge them, inspire them to change something, whether it be perspective or behaviors. And if you, I mean, this is kind of setting them up for that change, because most people are like, this guy with like the blonde hair. So if they can already accept that someone like me could have this kind of information, someone who looks like me, Spanish, someone who has this hair, who has like these tattoos or whatever, think in having this different look, but also having the substance to support whatever they truly need, allows for people to say, you know what, like, I didn't expect my therapist to look like that.
Right.
So, I mean, if he's there, then there's got to be something, that's supporting that. There's got to be so. And so, I do think that it's a good conversation piece. What's also interesting is I think more and more people like it. They like the freedom, because when they see a therapist who's willing to do that to their hair, I'm assuming, I don't know, but I think there's already this idea that, oh, he's not like, he's really living his life. Like, he's really choosing to be
He's a real
himself.
person.
He's really, and so I want that level of freedom. Maybe I don't want to dye my hair, but I want to be as free in my own skin and in my own designs to as this person. So I think it's a good thing at this point.
Yeah.
Right, like there's room for everybody. You don't have to look like cookie cutter like the rest of the therapists,
Right.
So you could
Cada
be yourself
persona tiene su
again.
cosa.
Yeah.
Exactly.
A concept I've heard this said a lot, that a therapist should have a therapist, right?
Oh yeah. Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely. Every therapist should have. If they don't already have, they're probably in transition.
They
or looking
have,
for,
right.
Yeah.
And the importance of that is, it is a difficult job. You are taking on a lot of emotional information, right? and
Yeah.
your emotional intelligence can be at its peak, but it can take a beating. So for any therapists watching, or those who want to get into therapy, right? It's a I'm assuming this is something you guys get told already, no?
Yeah, you get told. I mean, I still feel like it might even be something, even amongst other therapists, that not every, a lot of people may think about it, but it's tough because there's a whole, it's a similar layer that I think non-therapists deal with. But as a therapist, you're probably often wondering, like, do I know what they're about to say? Like you're like an analyzing Pong, like boom, boom. You're like, are they, but or you think, or you would like to hope and believe that with the education and the understanding that would be enough, but it never is. Your humanity will always beat your intelligence, like the fact that you're a human being and you deal with emotions and you deal with all these things. Your intelligence will often lose out to that. So you may deal with anxiety, and you may deal with depression, you may deal with suicidal ideation or substance abuse, and whatever, anything that you can consider a non-therapist dealing with, a therapist can deal with. I think that therapists do have like the extra hurdle of wanting to feel kind of all together in order to do their job. Like, I used to work at GameStop when I was younger, and if I had a bad day, I worked at GameStop. Like, I was like, I didn't really have like, like if people saw that I was upset, or if I had, I'm just like, I'm mad, but I'm just, it's like a librarian job, but for video games. Right. And that's it. But like, as a therapist, it's like shows on. Like, I can't, imagine if you're going for a therapy session and your therapist is just like, oh, you're like,
Over here for me or for you?
Should I sit in your chair? Or, so I think that a lot of therapists do have their own stigma of, you don't have to have it all together as a therapist. You can have mistakes. I make mistakes all the time. I'm definitely in therapy because, our humanity is better than that. So if us as therapists study this stuff for 6+ years, how much more does just the average person who just is living their life and just dealing with these emotions? I think everyone should have a therapist. So
absolutely. I remember my question.
Nice.
There we go.
It was about how does one go about knowing that they've found, because a lot of finding a therapist is finding the individual, right? The actual therapist who is aligned with you, that you vibe with. Like you're saying, it's a connection. It's an intimate connection with someone who's going to know a lot about you, and you need to have that comfortability to be able to open up, right? Mm-hmm. But also know, what to ask in order to receive the proper treatment, because like Chubi said, there's a bunch of different types of therapy. So how would one go about finding a therapist that provides the kind of therapy that might be most beneficial? Do they decide that, or do you? And then once you figure that out, is this person, do I feel comfortable sitting here and talking to them? Or do I feel judged or whatever?
Yeah. So it's a double-edged sword in looking up different types of therapy. It kind of is like when people try to self-diagnose on WebMD, it's really, what I mean? Like you're like, I have a rash, so I'm just going to I'm dying. That's what I'm dying. I died last week, and that's what happens when you die a week ago, And so sometimes going down like that rabbit hole can also like provoke anxiety. So as far as what kind of therapy is best for them, it's a tough one, because the modalities of therapy are all hoping to do the same thing. It's like they're all hoping to, whether you're doing like CBT or solution focus, like the way they operate is different, but at the end they want you to feel empowered and happier and feel like capable of handling whatever the situations are, that kind of thing. So I mean, you could look into it to see the different types. I would say, I'm trying to remember the statistics and stuff, but I want to say the therapeutic relationship is probably the most crucial part of the formula. I don't remember the numbers exactly, but I remember the pie chart, and I feel like the biggest part of the pie chart was the therapeutic relationship, how you feel about your therapist. So if you feel like you can relate to your therapist and hear them out, and that they provide you good insight, whether they do CBT or solution focus or narrative or any of these other things, like that will probably be far more beneficial to you than someone who does exactly the type of therapy you wanted, but don't you just don't resonate.
Right.
It doesn't work. And it doesn't mean that they're bad, or it doesn't mean that they're like not a good clinician. It just might mean that they don't quite connect to you in that way, or you may be wanting just a different experience. And sometimes it's just preference. There are some therapists who are a little bit more stern and quick to the point, sharper. And you have other ones who are just more soft and cuddly, and some people are like, you're too soft, I need you to give me direction and homework, while others are like, whoa, like you made me cry more than like my mom. And so it's like, like so you having that balance for you, like figuring out, which sadly I think it just takes experience and experimentation. I know therapy can be very costly. So what I tend to suggest people to do is to really look in their budget and figure out what, like on a month-to-month basis, like what would their budget be for mental health, truly like what their mental health budget would be. And if it's, let's say it's $50, I'm not saying it has to be something like incredible or anything like that, then all right, well, with $50, is there anyone who does therapy for that? I can tell you that there are a lot of college, like universities that may have like BTI at Nova. I think they do very inexpensive therapy. It's kind of like when you get your haircut from a college student, how it's cheaper, that, because they're studying, but they're also being supervised by a doctor and a team of other students. So you don't get just one perspective when you go to a university. You might get 6 perspectives plus the doctor's perspectives, which is more than a one-on-one at times, but if, let's say I want to go to this one person, but they're $100 a month. Well, then I did set a $50 budget. So I got to save $50 this month so that I can go next month.
Right.
And if it's $100, then, you might have to go to one therapist one time. You may go to another, in that initial
part is invest in your healing, invest in your.
Yeah, because if you're leaving it up to chance, or if you're leaving it up to problems to dictate whether or not you get to go to therapy, I've often said that's like buying a fire extinguisher when your house is on fire. It's not the best time to to have that stuff set up. It's too much is going on. So if you really think, all right, for my mental health, I should set aside $60 a month, and then on the phone call, you can kind of interview them, ask them questions about where their mind is at and how they think about things. But know that it's, the therapist is curious about you and figuring out like how they can support you and how but you should also be just as curious, like, how do you think you can help me, and how do you approach things, and that kind of stuff. So
awesome. Thank you for that. So
for sure,
Fernando, you're going to stick with us till the end, because we're going to do quotey quotes with Vanessa. I'm going to read my quotey quotes.
Oh, nice. Sorry if I was long-winded.
Between Chubby and you, if you have opinions about the quotey quotes, by all means, expand upon them. Give personal thoughts, comments, concerns. Quotey quotes. I got to do my own. With Vanessa. So my first one is obviously going to be by the Queen. Know that there will always be at least one quotey quote from the Brené Brown. Always. Our job is not to deny the story, but to defy the ending, to rise strong, recognize our story, and rumble with the truth until we get to a place where we think, yes, this is what happened, and I will choose how the story ends. I like that one. I think that has a lot to do with therapy. You're choosing to take your life by the reins and not just let, like you were saying, don't let by chance. It'll get better. The fake it till you make it approach. Fake it till you make it has got and landed people in a lot worse issues than actually just dealing with your shit. Deal with your shit now so it doesn't become bigger shit later. Or somebody else's shit. Yeah. And there's spillover shit when you don't deal with it.
Yeah, no, that's a great quote. That's a pretty good quote.
I'll send it to you.
Well, we love Brené Brown, so it's okay.
Yeah,
Anything she
but
says is amazing.
like what I'm hoping is that one day Brennan will catch whiff of this and be like, I'm gonna go down and be a no filters, no fears. That was me trying to do a really bad Texan accent.
What?
Nice.
If she
My
does,
therapist,
you
I would
will.
die. I would just sit here and cry. Like, you changed my life. Okay. My therapist made a life changing statement during therapy today. You don't have to feel hopeful about the future. It's enough to just be curious about what is coming. I can't even describe how eye opening that sentence was. And it's true. Get curious. That's why I always say, like, read about other things, investigate about you are a family therapist. I think family therapy and couples therapy and things like that, where it's not, yes, it's important for the individual to go, but if you see that dynamics and relationships that are important to you and that are consistent in your life are having issue, I think going in and learning more about them and how to communicate in a way that, speaking the language of the listener is vital, because
Yeah.
whether that relationship ends or not, right, whether the family decides, this, whoever needs to move out, it's going to have ongoing effects, the ripples, right?
Mhm.
um Sometimes, this one really resonated with me. Sometimes you just need to talk about something, not to get sympathy or help, but just to kill its power by allowing the truth of things to hit the air.
That's cool.
I like that.
No, that's all I'm gonna get from either one of you. Yeah.
Oh, I don't know. I've never. I'm curious how this segment goes. I'm like, okay, yeah,
It's because I read the quote. It spoke to me. It spoke to me because sometimes we inherently know when certain thoughts or feelings are just are a little bit irrational, illogical, and we know we're in our own little spiral. But sometimes, just at least for me, sometimes saying those things out loud and being able to not just have somebody there and hear me, be present with me, and maybe talk back, whether I agree with the perspective or not. It's that human engagement, right? It gets me out of my damn head, right?
yeah.
And saying it out loud, I hear myself and I'm like, bitch, you're crazy. No, that's not what that is. Like, what's wrong with you? And I figure it out on my own. And then the other person's like, oh, you did the work. You're good. Yeah, you know what I mean?
I mean, yeah.
So go ahead.
For me, it's like when you say it out loud and it's like you get it out of your system and you're like, oh, okay, it wasn't as crazy as I thought, or it was crazy as I thought. So yeah,
Right.
it makes you feel good. But yeah, I mean, at the end, just let it out. Just don't keep it in, basically.
The vent.
That
Yeah,
venting, yes.
for sure. The other side of that I think is really cool, I would suggest for everyone, is even as like a therapist, if I'm talking to my friends and they're like venting or they're letting things out, before I say anything, I ask them, um, do you want me to give you direction? Do you want me to just kind of be here and like hear you out? Because I think at times we jump to the wrong one, like they're
Yeah.
looking for your advice and you're just like, dang, that sucks, bro. And I'm like, really? Okay. Or they don't want advice at all and they just want to be heard. They just want to be able to let it out there. And I find it's because I truly do ask anyone who starts going
Yes,
and down
you
that
do.
rabbit hole. Yeah, I ask them like, hey, do you want me to just hear you out and be your friend? Because I can do that all day, no problem. If you want me to give you any kind of input, like I ask you for that permission. And some people are like, no, I just needed to vent. I'm like, cool, I'm here for you. That day that sucks. Let's get ice cream. I don't know, whatever we can do to like, make
Yeah.
you feel a
I
little better.
learned the
But
hard way that you need to ask, because I have the tendency to want to be the Superman and be like, but did you try? And it's like, no, just shut up and listen to me. I'm sad and I want to be sad. Okay, I'm
yeah,
sorry. I just don't like seeing my people sad, so I want to fix. We can't
yeah.
always fix, and that's really hard.
Really?
um, True healing occurs when I give myself permission to feel whatever feelings live below the triggers. I'm gonna say it again because I see everybody like, wait, what's this?
I was like,
I
what?
saw Fernando go off to that other cloud.
Yeah.
Okay, let's say that one more again. Okay. True healing occurs when I give myself permission to feel whatever feelings live below the triggers.
Mm-hmm. That's an interesting one.
Well, it's kind. I think was I talking about this last episode? I don't remember, but we were talking about masks a lot, didn't we, Chubi?
Oh
Oh,
yeah,
that fucking
yeah,
sound.
yeah.
Hold on, guys. Ugh. Technical issues. Dear microphone, cooperate. Here, toying with all my gain and all my buttons. Um,
But we were talking about it. Ignóralo. Just
I can't. I can't. My.
what's in my ears. So
Ugh. It's what I do for a living. It's killing my ears. Okay.
I don't
Uh,
hear anything.
ugh.
Yay.
for
I'm
you.
so happy for you. We were talking about masks, and I feel specifically today. Okay, here goes. I'm jumping back on that bus, y'all.
And
Uh,
that is yours.
thank God it's my bus. But the bus is my way of healing and dealing with my shit. It's my unmasking. There you go. Here's my unmasking and dealing with my shit. I found a video about high functioning depression, and it resonated a lot with me. And I recognize that in order to like cover it up or to please people, you know, I do a lot of the masking. So I don't really allow myself to figure out what the triggers were to begin with. So I just find myself in the space of feeling, you know, anxious or angry, right? So what happens is the primary emotion typically goes to anger, and I go get like tiger mode, right?
Mhm.
And I never figured out what the hell triggered it to begin with, because you mask and you don't give yourself permission to feel whatever you were feeling,
Mhm.
to live, I like that quote. I'm gonna stick with that Cody quote. That's what it meant to me.
It's cool.
um and then this is an affirmation for forgiveness. We've done episodes on shame, we've done episodes on a bunch of different topics, and this does to me tie into therapy in the sense that be willing to forgive yourself and know that you've been doing the best that you can, right? With what you've got emotionally and otherwise. But give yourself permission to get the help to be better if that's truly what
Right.
you want. Um, an affirmation for self forgiveness. I am human. I acted in the best way I was capable of in that moment. I have grown as a person. I am grateful for increased insight and opportunity to make a better choice from now on. I accept this about myself. I allow myself to be at peace with this. I forgive myself. And I'm going to go to therapy. I added that last little bit.
Oh, I was like, oh wow. Okay.
Wow, that was a jump. No, but I feel like those kinds of things of accepting certain past behaviors, and you can accept personal growths and know that there's always room for growth and for help. Um, so thank you for being here today, Fernando,
Sure.
and
For the
Yes.
invite.
giving us that insight. Final thoughts, Chubi.
Final thoughts. If you're going to seek therapy, know that there's nothing wrong with that. That it's okay to feel that you need outside help. That it's okay to reach out, and that it's okay to to just feel. You're human. At the end of the day, you're human. And if you need someone to talk to, hey, there just to
Call
talk.
Fernando.
There you go. And just to love yourself a little more each day, just to get the help you need for your sanity, for everything, for your mental health, your well-being, and that's
Mm.
it.
Fernando, our special guest from Avant Garde Therapy. I was going to say Avant Garde Theater, and then I realized that's wrong. Me perpetually in the acting world. Uh, Final thoughts.
Final thoughts. To piggyback off of like the whole, I'm looking into the camera, right? This is like,
Do it. Do
I feel like
it.
he's
Look
looking
into
into
our
my
souls.
soul right now, right? Um, for every family, there was that first person who went to the doctors. There was that first person who went to the dentist. There was that first person who got a job. There was that first person who really changed like the lineage of that household. Not just the household specifically, but just like the name. And so I encourage everyone to be that person when it comes to mental health, not just for their house's sake, but for any house that is touched by them or any continuation of their family line or anything like that. Be that first person who takes that step in really changing not only their own mental health and really finding ways of improving it for themselves, but to really see a change in like their family lineage from then on. Because when a parent goes to therapy, it also encourages the child, and then that child encourages their child, and so and then their friends. So really be that person in your own bubble. So that's my
It's okay. Hmm.
Yeah. Thank you. As I share my final thought and we start wrapping up, if you guys have any questions, please put it in the comments on the side. We'll ask them. We'll put them up so that Fernando or Chubi and I can answer. I'm sure you have many questions for Fernando more than for us because we are what? Hashtag not
Not
therapists.
therapists.
I
But
can't
if you have
can't
any
do that.
questions, this is the moment to put it in the comments so we can share it with Fernando. And my final thought is um I've had the privilege in the last couple of years of having more contact with people that are actual therapists. I actually have, I can't even count them on one hand anymore of how many people have come into my life that have a background as professional therapists. And, um, and not that your friends are not your therapists, your partners are not your therapists, right?
Exactly.
Your hobbies are therapeutic, but they are not therapy. Okay. Like I say this to all my students, acting is therapeutic. It is not therapy. So you may have, I've had the privilege of having that in my life to learn those things, to learn the benefits of what their knowledge is, and then to seek it for myself or to understand others better. We're all just people trying to make it through, y'all. We all just trying to make it through and figure it out. And we tell ourselves a lot of stories. This is a very difficult place. Nobody really understands it. So sometimes don't do the work by yourself. Let yourself be helped. So you can call avant-garde therapy. You can you can reach out to multiple resources. Chubi will be sharing that website that talks about the different types of treatment, and you can reach out to multiple therapists if you need help with a resource. You know to DM us through Instagram or Facebook or email us at nofiltersnofears@gmail.com, and we'll happily share any resources for therapy with you. So that's it.
Stay fearless, everybody.
Oh, I was like, what did you say?
Mhm.
I couldn't hear you. Okay, yes. Stay fearless, everybody.